Let's take these down one by one.
I hate communism because Pol Pot killed 1 in 4 Cambodians. I hate communism.
Pol Pot was backed by the CIA. Pol Pot and all the higher ups at the Khmer Rouge admitted that they didn't read Marx and that they weren't actually trying to build socialism. Marxism in that geographic region was really, really popular among peasants, and they had a large peasant population. So Pol Pot basically used Marxism to come to power, even though people quote, one of the people closest to him was quoted as saying the big thick words of Marx. We didn't actually read them. It was more of an idea for them than it was an actual science, which is supposed to be understood and applied, which, of course, if you've read a lot of Marx and you understand Marxism, it's a materialist ideology. It's not supposed to be an idea, right? It's supposed to be a system that's applied. Pol Pot was not a real Marxist. He was backed by the CIA, and that is not something to blame on communism. That is something to blame on capitalist imperialism.
Communism because Mao Zedong starved 40 million people to death in a man-made famine. I hate
Mao Zedong, the period that he's referring to, people did die during the collectivization process, but it's considered the greatest increase and the fastest increase in standard of living that's ever happened in human history. Life expectancy was increased by 10 times in a matter of years. They were taking the agricultural surplus and using it to try and industrialize and create manufacturing. And they had those backyard furnaces, which the West mocked. But you have to understand, China was a completely feudal country before that. They were run by tyrannical feudal landlords, who killed much more people than have ever died, since the founding of Communist China, the PRC. But so they had to develop their industry, and based on that basis, they increased life expectancy incredibly. And then, of course, after Mao, they opened up to much more private investment, and we've seen China, actually completely abolish relative poverty. These incredible achievements of bringing their country out of this feudal country where slavery was rampant and serf labor was rampant. And yeah, so that was not a bad thing.
I hate communism because Joseph Stalin's White Sea Canal program worked 25,000 slaves to death in a single work site. And that's the low estimate, by the way.
I don't even know about that one. I'm assuming that's not true. But, we've talked a lot, and I've written an article that actually got published on a lot of cool places, like fredhampton.org and stuff, which I'm really proud of. But about how European capitalism and American capitalism in the North needed Southern slavery. It needed this giant cotton market run by plantations. And of course, slavery was expanded into Latin America. And there was brutal policies of colonialism in India. And, of course, we even have all the neo-colonialism of today. But, he's talking about slavery or work camps under Joseph Stalin. When capitalism was built using or on the backs of slaves, who and a lot more than 20,000 of them died in the process of that.
I hate communism because it can do all that evil shit and still be a socially acceptable ideology to hold in public.
How do you live in the U.S. and think that communism is a socially acceptable ideology to hold in public? Do you live in the same United States as me? Where are you going around where people are calling themselves communist and not having people go, what?
I came on here and I said, guys, what we really need is a little bit of national socialism. You'd be like, wow, that's evil. If I came on here and said, guys, look, I know what you're thinking. Germany, Italy, Spain, not real national socialism. You'd be like,
those were all countries that were defeated by communists in World War II. All the countries that he listed were absolutely opposed by the communists. The Soviet Union, of course, lost millions of lives fighting against those fascistic forces that he is equating right now. I mean, do people realize how disrespectful that is to the millions of people who freaking died fighting for the Soviet Union against fascism? For him to just be like, these communists are the same as Hitler's Nazis. You're out of your mind, dog.
Like, wow, get off this app. But people can get on this app, deny genocide, and say, oh, well, you know, maybe this time it'll be different if we just try it again a little bit harder. Get 200,000 followers, all of whom are like 14 to 18 years old, and they're out there saying, wow, this is really profound. When simply put, it's just not okay to be a communist. And that's why I hate communism.
Oh, what an epic loop.
Communism because Pol Pot killed
That
one
video
of
was so lame. The reason I have so many followers, is because of people like you. Because kids don't want to watch that. They want to hear something that makes sense.